we've just had another server meshing test, and there were some interesting things this time. CRG wanted to test a more efficient hardware setup with a slightly lower amount of players per virtual machine. Now, we don't exactly know what they mean by that. We can speculate that they're trying out different combinations of virtual machines, server stuff, AWS, malarkey, whether they're getting faster hardware, we just don't know. But efficient suggests maybe money might be in the mix of things as well. So who knows exactly what it is. But we've got a test here which has got 3 authoritative zones for about 200 players per mesh. The first day, car crash. But today, just right now, it's actually been pretty successful. It didn't start off great. First of all, we all got in the server, but I fell through a tram initially. That was a great start. Then we were seeing some of the sorts of interaction delay that we saw in the last server meshing test, and we have seen on live servers as well. A long time from when you press a button to get out of bed to the point where you actually get up. I did manage though to get to the ASOP terminals, but another problem, and something that CRG might have to think about in the future as servers maybe get bigger and bigger or more players per shard, there were not enough hangars to actually get your ship. So there were just tons of people spamming this, and then all of a sudden we all just, Lorville disappeared and we all fell to our death. So yeah, that was another interesting bug. That then kind of happened again. There was a server error that had caused that. That then seemed to recover, but we then all went for another fall to the planet, and yeah, not great. And then another server crash. But once that had all kind of settled down and people had got out the landing zones, it worked pretty well. So you can see here me moving between the Hurston server and then the space server. Keep an eye out for the ping, because the ping is all over the place. I'm normally around the 100 mark to US servers, but it's jumping everywhere. We're in the Lorville server, or whatever is looking after Lorville. It's not just Lorville. And then it goes, as we jump, it will turn to the space server. Like that. It pulls you out of quantum travel. They haven't fixed that for this test. And then here we go from the space server to Magda. Now, Magda is on this other server, or authority identifier. We call them servers. That's probably the easiest way. Big shard is all of it together. We'll talk about them as individual servers. When we get to ITER, we don't switch servers. We're still on the space one. So interestingly, the moons around Hurston are configured differently. You'll see here as we go to Aberdeen, we're on the space server, and as we get there, we go on to 209B, the same one that Magda was on, but again, ITER for some reason was on its own thing in the space server. And then going to Ariel, again, you have to drop out, go to the space server, go again, and then you eventually get there, and again, that is on the same server that Magda and Aberdeen were on. So strange configuration. I guess CRG are just messing with things here, but as you see on this diagram, I'll kind of make it clear what's going on. This is not the same as the last time we had this test. They are playing around with different things, and yeah, it very interesting to see them messing with things and not just sticking to the same sorts of server configurations we had last time. We've got Hero 5, one of the Lagrange forms, that's still on the space server. Then we get to ArcCorp, and again, interestingly, that's now on the same server that Magda, Aberdeen and Ariel were on. So really interesting server configuration going on. I then just flew backwards for quite a while to try and find the barrier, and again you see as it kind of popped there, it swapped between. This is where actually things get quite interesting. We had a server error here. I'm in the space server, and eventually this recovers, but it recovers with a different authority identifier. So we've got AEB3 there. So very interesting. Go back again into the ArcCorp server, or the server that's looking after ArcCorp. So lots of really interesting things going on here, and maybe the thing to think about here is this going to be the configuration for 4.0? Will we have 200 player shard for Stanton and a 200 player shard for Pyro? That's obviously speculation, but I was playing on this one shard 030 for quite a while, and it worked relatively well. The missions still didn't work. If you followed last time, they didn't work last time. I couldn't get any missions, even if I was in the right server. If I was, say, on the moon and took a mission in that moon, they just weren't working. I wasn't getting markers or anything. But you definitely, when you move between servers, the missions get lost anyway. So that wasn't fixed and wasn't the point of this. But on the whole, the experience of kind of flowing around, going between different authority bits and things recovering, because again, I was on this one shard for a couple of hours, things just kept recovering, they crashed, they'd recover, and you'd keep going. So it was a pretty decent experience compared to the last server meshing test, which was riddled really with the massive interaction delay, which we obviously saw at the start there, but then it kind of calmed down. So yeah, we don't want to speculate too much that this will be what we'll get for 4.0, but we'll have to see, and hopefully CRG will give us some sort of insight, because since the last server meshing test and to this one, there was a big load of silence, no communication about what was going on, what the plan was. Then suddenly we get this test, and I hope we don't now have a long wait until the next test, or at least we get some communication about what they're doing, what they're thinking, what we should expect going into 4.0. It may be too early for them to give us much information, but really, if you think about when they said they wanted to release 4.0, we're not that far away now. So I would assume, based on this test, that this sort of configuration is something they're looking at. But again, to go back right to the start, the thing that they wanted to test here wasn't how well it all necessarily worked from our point of view. It was how well did it work with this new server hardware configuration with the virtual machine. So again, will they tell us the result of that? Probably not, but it was a fun test to take part in, and hopefully that's interesting if you are interested in this sort of thing.